When we read the covenant that's laid out in Exodus, particularly in Exodus 21 when it's talking about slaves, and later on in Exodus 22 when it's talking about virgins, there's some questions that we just have to deal with. First of all, are these passages just archaic and not useful for us today? And maybe even more than that, do these passages seem a little bit oppressive? Is the Lord condoning something that we in Western culture would say, this is one of the worst ills of all of our society? And so one, I think when we think about slaves, we need to understand it's not what we typically think about in terms of somebody racially oppressing somebody, kidnapping them from their culture, and forcing them against their will to work for them for the entirety of their life. Actually, it was more of a domestic understanding, enlisting under contract to work for somebody in their personal business. And even what we see as the Lord begins to lay out some specific commands of how to operate in that way, he is giving time limits, working for 6 years and then seeing freedom, keeping the family together. All of those things as if he's trying to say, you came out of deep oppression in Egypt, but you're not under that anymore when you're being led by me. And then when we think about virgins, we think about these young ladies who were going to be betrothed to be married. And part of the commitment of that covenant was that the man would come and pay a price to say, this is how serious I am about being in covenant with you. And what the Lord is commanding here is that if we're going to be a people of covenant that value other people, then you can't just use somebody as a commodity to fulfill your pleasures and then cast them off. But instead, even if you break the order that I'm setting that would say, this is what godliness looks like in marriage and relationship, you will pay back what you owe. You will pay back what you have done wrong by skipping the way that I've set things up and going after your own pleasure. So how does this apply to us? I think what we see here is in all spheres of our life, that the Lord is ordering a society that's very different than the Egyptian society that they just came out of. That the Lord loves and cares and values for people, whether that's employees, whether that's people going into marriage, and that he would command us to do the same thing. And that all of these commands within his covenant are the ways that the Lord is saying that this is how you can make your society look more like me, and this is how you can love your brothers and your sisters.